when we were released 9 years ago, I had 2 hours to get to the airport, so I didn't know San Francisco and I couldn't be with the people that I love. There's Donna, Vicky, Leslie, Penny, Edie, Amanda, Sulma. There are so many people that were with me throughout my incarceration here in Dublin. Yes, I was, even though I was close to San Francisco, I did not know San Francisco or California. When I was getting ready to come here today, because I'm staying with Donna Wilma, she has a quote of Che Guevara in her study bedroom, and that's where I'm sleeping. And it reads, at the risk of sounding ridiculous, what moves a revolutionary is love. I read that and it struck a deep chord, because even today when you speak of emotion, it's like a weakness. And for years and years I believe that that is our strong point, that our most powerful resource is our own humanity. And that's what the FBI, COINTELPRO, the Patriot Act, everything that we see is geared towards removing us from our potential as human beings, creating fear, creating doubt in each other, keeping us apart from each other, because they know that that is exactly what it is that allows us to achieve our freedom, whether it is our freedom within or our freedom without. A political prisoner is not different than anyone here in this room. There are a number of political prisoners here at this table. And I remember when we were incarcerated in 1980, the head of the FBI went public calling us the 11 Puerto Rican prisoners of war, political prisoners. We were labeled as the Achilles heel of national security. That's ridiculous. I think what he wanted was to create a distortion of us as human beings, and why we were struggling for the decolonization of Puerto Rico, to create this wall of fear between the 11 Puerto Rican prisoners of war and the community. They weren't successful, because from the get-go, the people in Chicago, and Edie Scripps was one of the compañeras there in Chicago at the time, and Merck was there from the get, and all of you, if there's people I mentioned. Anyway, what I want to say is that, yeah, I'm sure there was fear. I mean, we're human beings, but the fear should not immobilize. It should transform it. And the community did begin to transform this fear. The FBI was on them, the grand juries, people were followed, wiretapped. I mean, it was right, they were on people, and they were on us in prison. We were always a political tool during our incarceration. They never looked at us as individuals. We were subject to psychological profiles. The control units were, at that time, I think they were strong and they had been developed, but I think what we see in Florence, Colorado, and Abu Ghraib, not that we suffered anything near what these prisoners are enduring today, but we were their guinea pigs. They were studying us. They were looking to break our will, to break our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. And they were doing that in order to launch any broken down political prisoner, to launch against a movement. And you don't know how powerful you are I am sitting here now because we didn't break. It's true, we were not victims. And the people who visited me, no, I did not look at myself as a victim in prison. And, but there was this strong solidarity, not only from here in the US, but from people around the world. We had the fortune to meet with, for example, a woman who was I think the secretary or the treasurer of the ANC when Mandela was president. So she was one of 4. Mandela was one, and 2 other people, and Tenjiwe. And Tenjiwe and I sat, and the women political prisoners, we sat in the visiting room, and you know what? It was like she was a next door neighbor. She talked about her experiences with the ANC, the incarceration situation they lived, and it was like, yeah, you know, there are those connections, and I think that's very important. Also, there's a lot of spins on the news, in our reality. They spin up, you know. We need to be able to discern. We need to be able to see what is true and not be manipulated by false realities. There's so many of them. And there are many of them too in the movements. So we really have to develop our intuition, literally our intuition, to feel through and find what the truth is. Because when I was in prison, I could sustain myself because I stood behind what I felt and thought. If I couldn't stand behind that, I couldn't have survived it. And the same goes for out here. The situation, there's crises everywhere, and we all know that, and things are going to get worse. And we need to be clear. We need to remember our humanity, first and foremost, because it will be from that place that we will build strong movements. It cannot, you know, I was talking to Donna this morning. I was asked to speak at this event that happens every year that marks the assassination of 2 young Puerto Rican independentistas in 1978 in Cerro Maravilla. And I knew I was going against the current because the speakers were going to be with their fists up in the air and screaming at the crowd. My intention was to speak to the crowd and to call to their own intelligence, because we all have intelligence. And I told them, nobody's better. No one really has the truth. We all find our own truth. And we're very fortunate that that truth binds. It's almost a common truth, but we have to come to that truth from our own experience, our own life, and being a good human being. You're a good human being, you will. There's nothing to stop you. And that you have heard that. You have heard stories here. We are unstoppable if we are who we are, and if we connect from that point of view. And I do want to bring to this table Marilyn Buck. Marilyn Buck is a true revolutionary. Marilyn Buck is someone that knows where she stands, and she knows the connections that bind us, because those are the connections that strengthen her. State of Exile, read it, she translated it. The introduction, powerful stuff. And Marilyn has had health issues. Marilyn has had very difficult prison conditions, but Marilyn is strong, and Marilyn is clear, and Marilyn's a teacher as well as a student. That's what I want to say. We're teachers and students at the same time. And again, I want to say thank you. I am so happy to be here. You don't know, it's like a second home to me, and to see these women that I love so much, that were part of my life for 15 years in prison. And I told Leslie Mullen, the coat, because I lived in Chicago, she bought me this beautiful coat like 20 years ago, and that's the coat that I wear in the cold winters of Chicago, and I feel her embrace each time I wear it. Thank you.
So I think we've heard the stories of 5 different countries, and we're also, I know when we stand and sit here